Welcome to another DragonLance Saga review episode. It is Misham New Cult, the 26th. My name is Adam, and today I am going to give you my spoiler review of Before the Mask by Michael Williams and Teri Williams. I will be spoiling this story, so if you don't want to know it, stop watching now. I would like to take a moment and thank the members of this channel and invite you to consider becoming a member by visiting the link in the description below, and remind you that you can always pick up DragonLance gaming materials of any edition by using the affiliate links also in that same description below. Now, this is my perspective only, so if yours differs in any way, I would love to hear it personally. So I invite you to, if you're joining us live, put your thoughts in the chat there. And if you're watching this after the fact, put them in the comments. I think life is more interesting with observing other people's perspectives, and being open to those perspectives, I think, is a sign of a healthy human being. So let's all be healthy human beings. All right. Hey, Solid, how you doing, man? It's good to see you. All right, so the way these work is I'm going to read you a pre-written review, and then I'm going to just give you my thoughts. So if you have anything that you want to just throw out there about Dragonlance or Verminaard or anything really, put them in the chat, and I will get into it with you, and we'll just sort of riff for a little bit. For me, this is my weekend, like the very beginning of my weekend, so I got nothing else going on. Servant isn't out till tomorrow, which if you're not watching that, you're missing out on a great mystery thriller series. And Andrew, good to see you. Thanks for joining live. Nice. Just got off work. Okay, let's get into this, shall we? The story begins with Verminaard's birth. Daeghrefn, Lord of Nidus, has a friendship with Lord Laca Dragonbane of East Borders, a descendant of Huma. Both lords' wives are pregnant, months apart. As Daeghrefn is attending a dinner at Laca's castle, Laca suggests that it's in fact his son in Daeghrefn's wife's belly. Now, I'm just putting this out there. If you have a friend doing this, like taunting that your pregnant wife is actually his kid, is not really a friend. Just, I want to lay the groundwork here. So this taunting goes on all throughout the night until he's challenged, and his wife doesn't in fact deny it. So apparently in the past, the Lord Luca came to hunt and stayed behind, and it's never really addressed whether it was Luca who seduced Daeghrefn's wife or vice versa, but they did in fact have sex, and that baby inside of Daeghrefn's wife's belly is in fact Luca Dragonbane's. Now, this may come as a shock to you as it came to me, as Luca Dragonbane is presented as a Knight of Solamnia. So why would a Knight of Solamnia have sex with his friend's wife and still be considered a good Knight of Solamnia? I don't know. I don't know. And why would the descendant, the heir of Huma Dragonbane's legacy, be a cuckold? Or go around cuckolding other people? I don't know. But apparently that's a thing. So, if you have a friend that's a descendant of Huma Dragonbane, don't leave him with your significant other. At least not alone. So, this leads to Daeghrefn force marching through the night, through the Taman Busik, with his son and his wife in a blizzard, his pregnant wife. They're rescued by a druid of Paladine who has been granted immortality and has lived for over 3,000 years, apparently. I believe since the time of Huma. It's prophesied? Well, it's foretold that two of Huma's descendants will battle it out, and one will turn to evil, greater evil than his surrogate father. This seems to be a setup by Takhisis to corrupt the lineage of Huma. Daeghrefn doesn't accept the child as his, as clearly it's not, and it's born in the cave of the druid, and Verminaard ends up naming it, Daeghrefn ends up naming the child Verminaard as an insult. So his son sees the baby as his brother, and the mother ends up dying in childbirth. Now, this is another point where you start asking, why didn't it mention the wife's name? Like, this is Verminaard's mother. Why would that not be a significant part? But it's an actual theme that runs through this entire novel. The only women who have names, or are actually given names in any way, are the druids or druidesses? I don't know, the druids that work on behalf of Paladine. Every other woman is just a her. It's really bizarre. It just stood out to me when I was reading it. It really kind of bugged me. So Daeghrefn and his sons return to the castle years later after falling away from the knighthood and shunning the order. Daeghrefn enacts a Gabonaud. You may ask, what the hell is a Gabonaud? Just as like I did, and I'm going to tell you, it's an exchange of sons. So apparently, this rite, this Gabonaud, this ritual of sorts, happens when you want to bind two houses by exchanging sons. Now, Daeghrefn wants to exchange Verminaard for Luca's son. The problem is that the Gabonaud defines the exchange of sons as the firstborn sons, and Daeghrefn didn't know that, apparently. So he goes to the exchange expecting to get rid of this half-son of his. It's not even really his. It's his cheating wife's and Luca's that he's giving back to in exchange for Luca's son. And Luca's like, ha ha ha, I'm not taking that bastard. Meanwhile, it's his son. It's Luca's son, and he's laughing that he's not going to get his own son back. It's so bizarre. And he's a knight of Solamnia. He's supposed to be the good guy. Crazy. All right, so it's already infuriating me on every aspect of this book. However, there's parts that really actually make me enjoy it. And so it's like this weird sort of push and pull of my emotions at the beginning. That all changes at the end. But at the beginning, I'm sort of like, God, do I like it? Do I not like it? This is weird. Why do they make these decisions? That doesn't really make sense, but it's still Verminaard. And anyway, so they make the exchange, but it has to be with Daeghrefn's first son. So another question is, are there no other lords at all in the Taman Busic or Estwild? Like, why is Daeghrefn only doing this son trade pact with the dude who cuckolded him? What's the point? Why are you going back to the dude that slept with your wife? That doesn't make any sense. But hey, that's what they're doing. So they trade the sons. So Verminaard actually gets his actual half-brother while losing another half-brother, Abelard. Forced to follow through the rite, he hands his son over, except Luca's son, Aglaca, the true half-brother of Verminaard. Aglaca is the opposite of Verminaard in every way, as Luca is still the knight of Solamnia, so he worships the gods of good while sleeping with other people's wives, and Verminaard is taught the gods of evil by the guy who didn't sleep with someone else's wife. There's a consistent whisper in Verminaard's head pressing him to kill Aglaca, and a warning in Aglaca's head that Verminaard will in fact kill him. This whispering changes throughout the novel, and a couple different things change too. It's very inconsistent. So instead of the whisper telling Aglaca that his brother's going to kill him, it's like, you need to worship me and do what I say, which is exactly what Verminaard's hearing. So Takesis is like whispering in both of their ears, tormenting one, and then trying to get that one to come on her side. But if she really wanted him to come on her side and be her champion, why is she telling him that his brother's going to kill him? That doesn't make any sense. Why does she even address the brother at all? Just promise him wealth and power and whatever. Like, Takesis is the stupidest goddess, full stop, in this novel. So, the fact that there is this good son from the same father and a bad son from the same father is interesting, sort of. It's an interesting juxtaposition, but it's a bit contrived for my taste. So they go on a hunt, and Aglaca thinks he's protecting Verminaard by joining him in the vanguard. But it's not what Verminaard wants, because Verminaard's father, Daeghrefn, hates him. And there's nothing that Verminaard can do to make Daeghrefn like him, because it's not even his son. So he's like, hey, Dad, I want to go on the vanguard and prove to you that I'm a competent and powerful warrior. And his father finally relents, expecting him just to die and get rid of him anyway. So he's like, I don't care, go do your thing. And then Aglaca is like, no, I want to go, trying to help Verminaard. And he ends up, adding more discord and tension between the two in the process. And during the hunt, they lose their hunt master in the process, hunting a centaur. Now, I have no idea what a centaur is. Are they talking about a manticore? Or are they talking about a centaur? Or are they talking about a centaur, which is a mix between a centaur and a manticore? Because the description of the creature does not fit either of those beasts. And so I'm just assuming, well, maybe it's like an AD&D or AD&D 2nd edition creature I don't know about when this was written. But I couldn't find anything in a cursory search online. So maybe it was just a typo. But if it was a typo, it was repeated multiple times in the exact same way. So it's weird, right? All right. So I have no idea what a centaur is, but it apparently has horns and it's really smart. So Daeghrefn disregards Verminaard's kill of the centaur due to the loss of the hunter, and the boys return home. On the way home, they witness a young maiden being chased by Narokans, who also attack Daeghrefn's group. They do their best to rally and escape, but the young woman will stay in Verminaard and even Aglaca's mind moving forward. In fact, even as much time has passed, Verminaard is still insistent about rescuing this woman, and he uses Serestes, his magic teacher, to cast runes and learn the future. He interprets the omens as if he should rescue her and sets out to do so. This will end up being the choice that not only defines Verminaard moving forward, but also reveals Ember the dragon for the first time in thousands of years, and also Takhisis' plans. Thanks, Chris. I appreciate it, man. So Verminaard and Aglaca, much to Verminaard's dismay, go to search for this woman to rescue her. They end up in Naraka in the tunnels underneath the city in order to find her cell, thanks to Takhisis' voice that's actively talking to the brothers, guiding them. Aglaca's ignoring the voice and Verminaard's listening to it. They rescue the woman named Judith from Salamnia, or Salanthus. And we learn that Ember has plans to deceive Takhisis, while Takhisis wants Judith to lead her to the druid that midwifed the birth of Verminaard. Her name was Lindasha Iman. And that druid would be able to show Takhisis where the green gemstone man is, so that she can then complete her temple and enter Krynn. They escape Naraka through the tunnels, but the Narakans give chase, and the ogres from the mountains set fires all around them and hunt them. They find themselves in a sacred cave of Takhisis, where she presents Verminaard with the offer of service and power. He accepts and takes the magical mace artifact that Takhisis crafts for him, and we all know it as his famous mace. Why he's on the cover of this book with a sword, I will never know, because he doesn't ever use a sword. He only uses this damn mace. So they set out to return back to Castle Nidus. Meanwhile, all of the castle learns that these two young lords are completely missing and no one knows where the hell they are. The entire castle is forced to go looking for them. They're waylaid by the fires and the ogres and try to return to their castle, which is under siege by said ogres. Takhisis then, in order to rescue everyone, demands that Ember reveal himself as a dragon and protect Judith, Aglaca, and Verminaard. And as the men and ogres are all paralyzed with dragon awe as Ember flies overhead, terrorizing the ogres and stuff, Verminaard, who is unaffected because of the mace, kills all the stunned ogres. Lindasha Iman comes down from her mountain and rescues Lord Daeghrefn's seneschal, named Robert, and meets up with the three to return to Castle Nidus. Now we know why Takhisis wants the bloodline of Huma. She wants to corrupt it or totally end it. And Verminaard's magic teacher is actually Ember, his future mount. I'm getting mad nostalgia vibes from this novel in a very real and very good way at this point, and I can't wait to see where it goes. Boy, naive Adam, when he wrote that, didn't understand what was about to come. So, with the apparent heroism of Verminaard defeating so many ogres, the castle's denizens are now more loyal to him than Daeghrefn, and over time, Daeghrefn is actually locked in his tower as Verminaard takes control of the castle. It turns out that Lindasha and Robert fall in love, but since she's sworn to Paladine's service in order to protect the rune that would then, if Takhisis got it, reveal where the Everman is, she cannot return his love, though she wants to. So she asks Robert to collect Judith, as she's supposed to, aid Lindasha in the future, and bring her back here. Robert returns to the castle to see this incredible changes in power. Ember is summoned to Takhisis, who has been reading his mind about his treachery and threatens his destruction. Ember ends up bowing down to Takhisis to her will and swears to be Verminaard's mount. Verminaard is convinced to attack East Border's castle by Takhisis, of course, where Luca Dragonbane, Huma's descendant and Verminaard's true father, lives, to reclaim his birthright, though in fact it's really just to end the Dragonbane line. Verminaard's met outside the castle by a bunch of knights and defeats every single one of them. He stops short of killing Luca as he discovers his wounded half-brother Abelard has been blinded by him. He returns to his castle and realizes that he cannot get rid of the mace. It compels him to use it, much like the One Ring in The Lord of the Rings, and he struggles with his desire to be free of it. His other half-brother, Laca, is now with Judith romantically, and he reaches out to Paladine, who grants him a spell to cancel all evil magic in the area. Verminaard has asked Laca to be his lieutenant or leave the castle. But if Laca leaves, Verminaard will then take Judith. So Laca looks for this third option to allow Verminaard to choose his family and honor. He hopes to dispel the magic of the mace in order to free Verminaard from its influence. The action is not realized, and Ember, in the guise of Serestes, the wizard that's been teaching Verminaard magic, murders Laca after Verminaard stopped him from casting the spell and defeating Serestes. At this point, you aren't really sure if Verminaard is actually in control of himself at all. The narrative suggests that he's struggling and eventually accepts Takhisis' lies and bargains, but he still resists her sometimes. It's really odd. In either case, Laca comes to the castle in order to attack Castle Nidus, as Verminaard is completely losing his mind. Daeghrefn is confronted by Robert, and he has clearly lost his mind and falls out of the tower balcony window. Robert can't leave the castle with Judith now that it's in lockdown under siege, so they wait until they see what the outcome is. Verminaard is told by Takhisis that Ember is designing a helmet to cover the scar that Laca gave him in that battle, which is a traditional Dragon High Lord armor, and it just glosses over him becoming a cleric of Takhisis. Like, this is another confusing point, and it happened throughout the whole entire book. He was taking magic lessons from a wizard named Serestes, which was actually Ember the Dragon. At what point was that supposed to be divine magic lessons? The whole time it's all arcane magic. And it's not like Ember the Dragon was a cleric of Takhisis in order to teach him how to use magic. So he just went from learning arcane magic his entire life to suddenly being a cleric like that. Totally unconnected from everything. It makes no sense. So, it does in fact fit with the obscure nature of this overall story, because none of it makes sense when you start to think about it. Verminaard finally mounts Ember with his armor and burns everyone and everything, flying off to an army that Takhisis told him is waiting for his command in Estwald. Even Robert and Judith were supposed to be burned, only to have been saved by a necklace that Verminaard found in Lindasha's cave and gifted to Judith as he was trying to court her. They return to Lindasha, and Paladine is there, where Judith and Lindasha switch places so that Lindasha and Robert can finally be together. The whole point was that the druid needed a druidess to help her protect the rune that Takhisis was after. But Takhisis gave up looking for it after Verminaard burned his home. So what was the point of that storyline? Like, the entire rune storyline, which was the whole point of involving Lindasha and Judith, is totally dropped and ignored. Takhisis' desire to end the Dragonbane line by sacking Castle Dragonbane is forgotten. And it's not like a side note like, oh, and he went and destroyed everyone. No, it just doesn't happen. They just ignore it. They spent half the book building up these storylines just to drop them at the drop of a hat. It's like they were running out of time and they just had to finish. It just falls apart and it becomes totally meaningless. Not to mention the entire Luca Dragonbane storyline of him betraying his friend's marriage and sleeping with Daeghrefn's wife. At no point do any of the wives have any names or any culpability in their husband's actions. How is Laca an honorable Solemnic knight as presented when he cheated on his wife and his friend with his friend's wife, then ignores that Verminaard is his actual son. It is the most unhonorable thing that any man could possibly do, let alone a Salamnic knight. And why doesn't anyone address whether it's willful infidelity or rape? Because there's pretty big differences. In either case, Laca's a douchebag, but either he is a rapist douchebag or just an asshole douchebag. I think that distinction should be said. I mean, with Tanis Half-Elven, they played it off as rape and then they defined it later in a different novel. With this, they don't even address it at all. Just that it happened. You know, you lean next to a girl and she gets pregnant. You're just that potent as Huma's heir, descendant. So the wives have no names, which drives me nuts. I honestly hope for a better origin story for Verminaard than this. It's convoluted, at times totally nonsensical, and completely overly complicated. It's definitely not one of Williams's best books. And if you are obsessed with Verminaard, maybe don't actually read this. It changed completely how I felt about him, and not in a good way. If you are a completionist, then you probably already read it. So otherwise, I think you can completely skip this book entirely. I am really bummed, as I wanted something so much better than what I got. And I can clear up this entire storyline just with this very brief synopsis. Drop the rune bullshit storyline that was dropped anyway. You don't need it. Cut it out. Just have Luca have two sons, Laca and Verminaard comes across the magical cave of Tikhisis, who then corrupts him. Problem solved. All of the weirdness of this novel is suddenly washed away, and now you get a solid story about two sons struggling for light and darkness. And that's all you need. You don't need to go all this other weird, convoluted bullshit to, I don't know, add pages to the book. You could come up with a really nice, clean, tight, precise premise and build out character, build out motivation, build out corruption of good, build out what it means to be a knight of Salamnia when you're witnessing your son fall to darkness. That is an infinitely better story than what we got. Michael Williams, Teri Williams, what the heck are you doing? And I know this is done a long time ago, but sweet hell, think about the story before you write it. It makes me so mad because Verminaard is such a great character. Just the concept alone. Tikhisis is defeated in the Third Dragon War by a man. She then goes to the heir of that man and makes her her priest. That's a great story beat. Like, how could you mess that up? And yet they did. They did. Fuck. It makes me so angry. So the bastard would not, in fact, take back his bastard Andrew. ASMR, how you doing, man? Thanks for joining live. What's up, Patrick? Thanks for tuning in. Okay, so let's see. The companions didn't kill Verminaard. Do you think he would have eventually defeated Ariacus and taken over? Maybe. I don't know. If it's this Verminaard, no. This guy's a dumbass. But if it's the Verminaard that we were led to believe through the original modules and the novel, then yeah, probably. He probably definitely would have. What's up, Graphite Dragon? How you doing? Disembodied talking head is kind of not sure. Do I look disembodied? I guess I kind of do. I should have turned up the light so you could see I have a black shirt on. And it's kind of like the head at the very beginning of Vincent Price in House of The Haunting of Hill House. Or House of the Haunting Hill. That's one of the two. It's a great horror film I watch every year. But that's kind of what I am. All right, so let's see. The stream dropped out. That sucks. Sorry about that. You know, it's just a trick of the background graphics and black shirt. Yeah. So you haven't read this one yet. Does it explain why Verminaard was dumb enough to give Toda a command position? No. Other than it presents him as an idiot. No. The reality is that every capable leader is taking a leadership role. And so you need people to sort of be the shock troop people. And really, all Toad was doing was collecting slaves, ultimately. So you don't really need someone smart in that role. You just need someone effective. And he definitely was effective, because Toad captured all of the companions. He captured Gilthanas. He captured, like, everyone. I mean, yes, he lost them because of the Quillency Elven raiding party, but, you know, that's no skin off his nose. I mean, he still did what he was supposed to do. The guy makes Lauren Soth look like a great Slam at Night. Straight up he does. I mean, at least on par with Lord Soth. It's weird. Like, the corruption of Anakin Skywalker didn't make sense why he turned so bad so fast. In the film, arguably, but in the novel, it made infinitely more sense in the novelization of Episode 3. But yeah, it is like the corruption is throughout the whole novel, so it's not sudden. The corruption of Verminaard. It's just all the story beats and the world happening around him made no sense. At least not to me. You know, if you guys who have read this loved it, please let me know why, and why those weird dropped story beats didn't bother you, because they really bothered me. And look, it doesn't take anything but a half a second to come up with a name for Verminaard's mother. I mean, it's the woman cheated on her husband with a Solamnic Knight. Give her a name. Mary. There you go. Her name was Mary. It doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't have to be crazy like Daeghrefn's name. Or Lindasha. Just give her a damn name. Then she's a person. You don't give her a name, she's not an actual integral part of the story anymore. And the problem is she birthed Verminaard and cheated on her husband with the Solamnic Knight. Hence, she's a pretty important part of the story. Why wouldn't you name her? It's ridiculous. So stupid. You always felt Verminaard didn't trust the Draconians. I don't know. I mean, he was a priest of Tikhisis. He knew everything. You know, he knew how Draconians were created. He was given total power and total trust. He was wildly successful as a Dragon High Lord as well. And it wasn't until the debacle of Pax Tharkaz that we saw his frailty. I mean, he swept through Ansalon with his army. I mean, he was a badass. Anyway, that's why I liked him so much. And that's why I was so disappointed by this story. But that is it for my review of Before the Mask by Michael Williams and Teri Williams. What did you think about the novel? Do you have a favorite part? Did you mind the story beats? Did you mind the dropped ones? Did you mind the convoluted rune storyline that just sort of floated out there for literally no reason? Let me know in the comments below. As always, you can always shoot me an email at info@dlsaga.com. I would like to take a moment and remind you to subscribe to this Disembodied Heads YouTube channel. Ring the bell to get notified about upcoming videos, and click the stupid like button. All this goes to help other Dragonlance fans learn about this channel and this channel's content. Thank you all so much for tuning in. This channel is all about celebrating the wonderful world of the Dragonlance Saga. My name is Adam, and until next time, Salam Javar.